Hi everyone, I hope you're well. Today I'd like to talk about wisdom versus intelligence. Um, so, I've always been a bit of a boffin. I have the sort of brain that does quite well in kind of academic situations, and I've always sort of had the philosophy whereby if you work hard, then you will get results. So I've obviously applied that in my athletics career as well. And in my sort of goody fashion, if you like, I would often work for work's sake with training, just to sort of be seen to be doing something that, I'm this really committed athlete. Um, Possibly quite almost arrogantly thought that I'm intelligent, so I'm not going to get injured because I'm not going to keep making the same mistakes. Um, Whereas clearly I did. In fact, there was a point when one of my coaches, a guy, Dave Turnbull, really lovely guy, and probably not from quite so much an academic background, but very wise and in a very funny way. And he just sort of very simply said one time, so it's like if you walk into a brick wall, you don't keep doing it, do you? You don't just keep thinking, oh, that was fun. Oh, I'll keep doing that. And yet, with a lot of my recurring injuries, effectively, is what I was doing. So there's that reason I kind of like dogged persistence and keep making the same mistakes, which is what caused a lot of my injuries. But there's two other things as well, which I think come from listening to intelligence rather than wisdom that predisposed me to injury. One of which was that I did not rest enough, because I was always kind of reading things about what I could and should be doing, so I was always wanting to do more. And also the second point is in terms of not switching off, in that kind of related aspect. I read a book once called The Art of Effortless Living, and I clearly remember a point in the book whereby they said that the amount of mental chatter you have correlates very closely with the amount of tension that you physically carry in your body, particularly in your spine, because your brain and your spine are obviously linked quite strongly by lots of nerves and fluids and things. So and I do have quite a tight back even now still, and it's possibly related to the fact that I'm still a bit of a goody-goody overthinks things. Anyway, I digress. What's my next point? So yeah, basically I've through trying to be overly clever, I wasn't being wise and getting injured. And later on in that book, it does say rather than being driven, we need to be creative. So I rather like that. And there was another thing that I read this week. Sorry, I knew this would happen. My iPad's just gone to sleep, but bear with me. It's an excerpt from a book called The Tribe of Mentors, by Tim Ferriss, and he has basically interviewed a lot of the world's top performers in any kind of sphere, really, not just in sport. But this guy, he was an NFL player, I think, and then he became an actor. So he's had quite a lot of success in different areas in his life. And it's just a series of really sort of short, insightful questions that can give you a lot of really good life advice. And I was thinking about doing this vlog actually before I even read this, so it's quite good that it came when it did. Anyway, the question was, what advice would you give a smart, driven college student about to enter the real world? What advice should they ignore? Okay, and straight away he says, there is a big difference between intelligence and wisdom. Many are fooled into thinking they are the same thing, but they are not. Where are we? Intelligent human beings have been given this trumped up position in society where just because they're intelligent, they are also to be listened to. I have found this to be extremely dangerous. And later on he says, intelligence is like following a GPS route right into a body of water until you drown. Been there? Well, not literally. Wisdom looks at the route, but when it takes a turn into the ocean, decides not to follow it, then finds a new better way. Wisdom reigns supreme. And on a similar note, I know I've mentioned before in vlogs that I'm a big fan of Dr. Steve Peters, and at one of his conferences that I went to, he pointed out the fact that we have different types of intelligence, and the academic intelligence that gives us this trumped up sort of sense of ourselves within society. He says that actually the statistics show that only like 10% of success, I think, in the sort of the world of work can be attributed to academic intelligence, whereas 80% of success can be attributed to emotional intelligence, in terms of like being able to read other people, to interact with other people. But I also think you can relate that to emotional self-intelligence, and listening to your own emotions as well. And yeah, I think often in the pursuit of success we can put our emotions to one side a little bit and kind of think I'll be happy when, rather than thinking actually yeah, I'm pretty knackered and I'm a bit stressed and you know, just dealing with that and talking through it. Yeah, so in that way, say you're much more likely to avoid injuries, I'd say, if you are willing to listen to yourself and be emotionally intelligent and therefore wise. Okay, I hope that helped. Don't be a boffin, be wise.